Thank you very much. Please.
Good morning.
Members of the media.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Welcome to this presidential press conference. The President will now address you.
Good morning, members of the media, and by extension, members of the Guyanese community. This morning, I wish to engage the media and population on a number of issues. As you are aware, my government has set itself as a result-driven, action-oriented government. Everything we do is based on quantitative and qualitative results and action-oriented. This morning, I want to go through some qualitative analysis of the achievements of this government thus far. Achievements that are people-centered, policies that are people-centered. The areas of focus this morning will be situating our current situation in a global context, foreign policy, the climate agenda, healthcare, education, food security, economy and livelihood, housing, water, oil and gas, and our current policy agenda. That is policy issues engaging the attention of Cabinet. It is impossible for me to go through all the sectors and all the areas of government this morning. So I'm just going to highlight those areas I mentioned. As I speak to you this morning, most, if not all, of the developing countries are faced with multiple crises that have invested in deteriorating food and energy security, increasing poverty, contracting fiscal space, increasing global debt levels, debt servicing costs, declining liquidity, unprecedented inflation, and low economic growth. That is the current situation that surrounds the developing world. Recent statistics published by various international organizations paint a very grim picture for developing countries, especially those who are vulnerable to climate change. The head of the United Nations Development Program recently discussed that more than 50 poor countries are likely to become bankrupt unless rich countries inject targeted liquidity into these countries. Of the countries with severe debt problems, 28 are from the top 50 most climate vulnerable nations in the world. The latest World Bank debt sustainability analysis revealed that 4 Commonwealth member countries are in debt distress. 21 are at high risk of distress, whilst 20 are at moderate risk and 4 are at low risk of debt distress. According to the World Bank, food inflation is 5% higher in 66.7% of low-income countries and 81.4% of low-middle-income countries, based on inflation data for February and May 2023. Based on the Global Report on Food Crisis 2023, over 250 million people are facing acute hunger. The report specifically revealed that 258 million people across 58 countries and territories face acute food insecurity at crisis or worse levels. During 2022, up from 193 million people in 53 countries to today, 258 million. Most developing countries are off track to achieving sustainable development goals in 2030 due to climate-related disasters, economic slowdown, unprecedented inflation, currency volatility, and surging interest rates and debt levels. Consequently, developing countries are faced with $4 trillion investment gap in sustainable development goals, $4 trillion. According to the World Bank, current trends suggest that 574 million people, approximately 7% of the world population, are projected to live below the poverty line by 2030. The most recent joint child malnutrition estimates for 2022 reveal that 148.1 million children under 5 were stunted in 2022, which is equivalent to 1 in 5 children in this age group worldwide. This is just the context in which the global environment and Guyana is operating. The situation around the world is indeed worrying. I'm not going to go through other indicators, which also include developing countries battling as they prepare for extreme El Nino weather phenomena. And this is something that we've been warned about here also. That is projected to cause global economic losses estimated at 3 trillion. So the El Nino phenomenon, which we have been warned about, is estimated or projected to create global losses of $3 trillion. This is going to further add to the existing problems developing countries is faced with. Now, in relation to foreign policy, the government over the last 3 years has worked tirelessly to position Guyana in the international, hemispheric, and regional community as a global leader on food security, climate security, energy security, and human development. Indeed, we had to overcome the negative consequences of a group of people trying to steal an election and derail democracy, where the credibility of our country was damaged. That took time and effort. Our objective in relation to foreign policy are as follows. First, to safeguard our nation's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and in this regard, to pursue every peaceful path under the Charter of the United Nations and international law to do so. This is why we have followed the recommendation of the UN Secretary General to submit the contentious claim of our neighbor, Venezuela, to the International Court of Justice. We have pursued these paths steadily and firmly, and in the course of our responsible behavior, we have won many friends and supporters. Our relations with Suriname have improved to the point of solid economic cooperation that benefit both peoples of both countries, the people of both countries. The fact that both the government of Guyana and Suriname have chosen quiet but constant diplomacy to continuously explore ways to peacefully resolve issues should not be mistaken for neglect. Our second objective is to win and maintain respect for our nation in the global community through our unwavering support for the principles set out in the Charter of the United Nations. Those principles embrace upholding human rights and fundamental freedoms, including non-discrimination, maintaining international peace and security, developing friendly relations amongst nations, contributing to international cooperation to solve international issues, and honoring our obligation to obey the UN Charter, to cooperate with the UN Security Council, and to pursue peaceful means to resolve conflicts. Guyana's elections last month to serve for 2 years, beginning in January 1st, 2024, as a member of the United Nations Security Council, is clear evidence of our success in achieving broad respect for our nation and the influential role we can play in the world. It is notable that we were elected by 191 of the 192 nations represented in the UN General Assembly. This tells his story. 191 out of the 192 nations represented in the UN General Assembly. Then this endorsement could not be more resounding. Our third objective is to gain economic and financial benefits for the people of Guyana through our strategic engagement with members of the international community and international institutions. There is no question that we are achieving this objective, which is a continuing pursuit. However, I point now to our success in the removal of visa requirements for our people to visit and do business in the United Kingdom after decades of visa restrictions. Beyond this tangible benefit, I also note the many economic cooperation agreements we have concluded in a variety of key areas with leading nations in Africa, Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and North America. These agreements will advance tourism, commercial transactions, the export of goods and services, investment in energy, manufacturing, and agricultural sectors, the creation of new employment, as well as the enhancement of education and health facilities. Our fourth objective is to continue to advance and strengthen the Caribbean community and the people of its member states. Our Caribbean brothers and sisters with whom we share the closest historical relationship. CARICOM is the most effective vehicle for the joint expression and pursuit of common Caribbean concerns in the international community. Each of our countries is stronger for the support of all the others. Further, the deeper economic integration within CARICOM offers the opportunity for the economic advancement of all in trade, in joint institutions, and in providing wider opportunities and markets for individuals and businesses. Our fifth objective is to develop closer relations with the countries of South America with which we share the continent. There have been traditional obstacles to the development of such relations, born of the experience of rival empires. However, we envisage the time when road networks will open to all of Latin America, beginning with connections through Brazil, with which we continue to explore deeper relations. Our sixth objective is to obtain for Guyana and all Guyanese a place of respect and regard in the international community, such that we can contribute to influence global decision-making for good and better. We have set our feet firmly on that path, and the evidence of our success can be seen in the extensive list of heads of government and foreign ministers from influential nations that have come to Guyana and with whom I have had bilateral engagements. That list is indeed very extensive in relation to heads of state, prime ministers, and leaders, global leaders. I have had direct engagement with more than 70. We have signed more than 60 international MOUs, a service agreement, and joint communique. This success can also be gauged by the many heads of international institutions who have come to Guyana for official discussions, including the Secretaries General of the UN, the Commonwealth, the Organization of American States, and the Director General of the Food and Agriculture Organization. The world leaders and more leaders are coming to Guyana because they believe that we can contribute to leadership in the world and to the pursuit of a peaceful and economically stable world. My government intends to live up to their expectations by ensuring that Guyana plays a full part in fashioning an international system that is fair and just. In doing so, we will seek alliances and will embrace friends, but at all times, we will remain independent and principled, standing up for the values set out in the United Nations Charter and international law. This includes non-intervention in the internal affairs of states, respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, and resistance to aggression. I'm conscious that those whose tendency is to criticize and condemn the government at every turn, have been critical of our foreign policy, which they claim is not structured or coherent. This claim has no basis in fact. Rome was not built in a day. And the results of our action-oriented foreign policy speaks for itself. I wish to turn my attention to our leadership on climate matters. As I said, part of our agenda is to provide global leadership on this issue. Guyana has continued to be a leader in the world on forests. With Guyana's Low Carbon Development Strategy 2030 showing real results in climate finance, with carbon credit sales for the period 2016 to 2030. And we went back to get legacy earnings for a period we were not even in government. Carbon credit sales for the period 2016 to 2030 already earning Guyana $750 million US. 750 million US dollars. This is as a result of Guyana's landmark issuance as the first jurisdictional scale carbon credit program in the world. First in the world, with 33.4 million tons of carbon credits issued to Guyana. The second issue on this agenda is transforming livelihoods at village level. Investment from Guyana's climate program is not only benefiting the coastal communities, but hinterland communities as well. 15% of all proceeds from the sale of carbon credits go directly to the Amerindian villages. This year alone, 4.7 billion Guyana dollar has been transferred to 242 village accounts. And to date, more than 200 of these villages have submitted village plans with letters of participation in the program and are at various stages of implementing their projects. The third aspect of our climate agenda: creating strong environmental credentials. Guyana has maintained forest cover at over 85% and has recorded the lowest rate of deforestation since 2010, being recorded for the year 2022 with a rate of 0.036%. This is generated from independently verified remote sensing technology and ground assessment, and proves that even with Guyana's accelerated development in all corners of the country, we have not only maintained forests, but we have further strengthened our progress in this area. The fourth area in our climate and environment agenda: maintaining carbon sink status with the expanding oil and gas sector. Guyana's vast forests stores over 19.5 billion tons of carbon dioxide and is a net carbon sink. As our oil and gas industry expands, even with a significantly expanded production level with 10 FPSOs, Guyana remains a predominant net carbon sink and sequester or remove 154 million tons of carbon annually from the atmosphere. Fifth area, or a move towards a clean and renewable energy transition. Guyana has made significant strides to accelerate our energy transition to clean and renewable sources. One of the main objectives of the LCDS 2030 and our climate agenda is exactly this: to move towards cleaner energy, transition towards renewable. Guyana's energy security is boosted with the signing of the contract for the gas to energy project, Guyana's largest project to date, which will create 300 megawatts of new power and reduce the cost of electricity by 50%. And the utilization of solar There's rapid implementation of renewable energy through off-grid solar system for Berbice, Linden, and Essequibo. 33 megawatts of solar power will be financed using revenue earned from the Guyana-Norway Bilateral Corporation, which total $85 million US. The sixth area, collaborating with development partners on climate and environment. Guyana's leadership on climate and environment is also reflected in our development partnership. The entire EU program for Guyana over the next 5 years focuses on climate and environment, and has seen several programs already signed into effect, including on mangroves, community livelihoods, and forest governance. Our network with the British government has shaped a maritime economy plan, and the US has been a strong collaborator in the energy and environment sectors. Guyana's engagement within CARICOM on the regional food security agenda is also a main priority in our program of work on climate and environment. In relation to our expanded partnership with the EU, in the coming week, I'll be meeting with the President of the European Union to further explore and discuss areas of joint collaboration. Another win in our foreign policy. The final area on climate and environment is providing international leadership in climate and environment. Guyana's program on food security, energy security, and climate security will be the highlight at the upcoming Conference of Parties, COP28, of the UNFCCC in the UAE in December this year. Discussion on national priority areas are planned for the upcoming meetings of the multi-stakeholder committee of the LCDS. And we're already collaborating with regional and international partners to showcase Guyana's leadership in the areas of climate and environment and share experiences with other forested countries. I now wish to turn our attention to the healthcare sector. The PPP promised in our manifesto for the March 2020 elections that we'll transform the health of our people by building a world-class healthcare system built on the principle of equity. We promise that people will be able to live long, productive lives here in Guyana. Subcomponent of these promises include having disease diagnosed earlier, having access to the best treatment available in the modern world, reducing child mortality drastically to being among the lowest in CARICOM and the Americas, reducing maternal mortality to achieve safe conception, gestation, and safe delivery of babies, improving patient and family experience in the health sector. These are the subcomponents. How did we perform so far? As I speak to you, improvement in life expectancy. In spite of COVID-19, which caused a dip in life expectations in countries around the world, Guyana has maintained life expectancy at 70. Today, versus 68 in 2020. That's the first point. Our goal is to increase life expectancy to 72 by 2026 and 75 by 2030. The second issue, reduction of child mortality. Child mortality has slowly improved and is now the lowest it has ever been in our history. It is now 13 per 1,000 births versus 19 per 1,000 births in 2020 when we came into government. You don't hear these every day. You don't see the headlines reflecting these in the media. This is the reality of the Guyana you live in. This is the result of the investment the government is making. Real results, real benefit, real transformation for the people of our country. Survival of low-weight neonatals has increased. Maternal mortality has improved to its lowest ever. Maternal mortality has improved to its lowest ever. It is now 96 per 10,000 deliveries versus 170 in 2017. 96 per 10,000 deliveries versus 170 in 2017. Where's the headline for these? We love Guyana. We love development. Where are the headlines? Each of these can carry a headline by itself. Cardiac surgery is now being provided in large numbers, both in private sector and at GPHC. More than 250 interventional treatments, whether it's echo, stents, angiograms, for heart diseases, done each month at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation by GPHC doctors. And we expect to introduce regular open heart surgery for adults this year to enhance our cardiac service care. This year, we intend to open up for open heart surgery at the Georgetown Hospital. Pediatric cardiac surgery is now not only established, but established as a regular program at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation. 12 children benefited from open heart surgery this year so far. 12. From 2024, we expect to increase to more than 40 children per year. More transplants are being done. Prior to 2020, Guyana completed between 2 and 4 kidney transplants per year. I want you to listen. Prior to 2020, Guyana completed between 2 and 4 kidney transplants per year. Now we are doing at least 1 per month. At least 1 per month, when you do the average. Guyana will complete its first pediatric transplant in October and its first cadaveric transplant in November. First. Marcel, these are all headlines for you. I'm looking forward to see the next 10 days of newspapers, only on healthcare. The number of surgeries has increased and is now approaching more than 22,000 per year. 22,000 surgeries per year. I pause here to recognize the efforts of the nurses, the doctors, the health workers. We must applaud them. This is the results, the qualitative results of the investment that we're making. This year, we've completed 55 knee and hip replacement. 55 knee and hip replacement. And we expect to increase this to more than 100 per year, so as to reduce the long wait by our citizens. This is what your country, Guyana, is already doing. This is what your country and your government is delivering for the citizens of our beautiful country. More brain neurosurgery and other specialized surgeries are being done at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation and at New Amsterdam hospitals. From about 100 less complex brain surgery per year, Guyana now is completing more than 150 moderate, from 100 less complex to now 150 moderate to complex brain surgeries per year for the first time, pediatric neurosurgery can be done. For the first time, pediatric neurosurgery can be done. These are the results of our investment. This is the real Guyana. These are the facts. This is the qualitative analysis of the investment. CT scans at Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation, which under the last government you had to pay for. CT scans came at a cost under the last government. These scans are now free of cost. CT scans, now free of cost. At the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation, we do more than 1,000 per month. Free of cost. More than 1,000. The waiting time at ERs around the country has reduced. Waiting time for cataract and other surgeries have been drastically reduced. You remember the last government closed down the center in Port Moran that the government of Guyana and the government of Cuba invested in, that was providing regional services. Last government shut it down. Today, we have reopened it, reinvested in it. And what have we seen? The waiting time for cataract and other surgeries being drastically reduced. We are engaging the private sector to help us eliminate long waiting time for all surgeries. As we said, we're going to work with the private sector in reducing all backlogs in our healthcare system. And we are working in a collaborative way with the private sector to help us in this. Lab diagnostics has improved with a new pathology lab. Guyana is now set to eliminate 5 neglected tropical diseases by 2025. A new school health program will ensure that all school children are screened for hearing and vision and provided with glasses and hearing aids where necessary. A new disability program is ensuring that all persons in need of wheelchairs are provided with same. A new disability program is ensuring that persons with hearing impairment are improved with free hearing aids. Medicine supply without disruption is another key area of accomplishment. So medicine supply without disruption, which was around 35% in 2020, 35% availability when we came to government in 2020, is now about 85%, and we expect to reach 95 to 100% by the end of 2023. This is the result of strong governance. These are the results of an action-oriented government. Transformation of the financial investment architecture in healthcare. The annual budget for healthcare has increased from 35 billion to 85 billion, an increase of almost 150% in just 3 years. To put things into perspective, remember that in 1992, Guyana's per capita investment in health was under US $7. That is, we used to invest US $7 for every Guyanese in health. Today, our per capita investment in health is US $800. From US $7 in 1992 to US $800 today. The regional health budget has more than doubled in less than 3 years. We're also working on the transformation of the physical infrastructure in our healthcare system. That is why you're seeing health centers and health posts. Not only new health centers and health posts being constructed, but we're working on an aggressive program. We have completed a total audit of all our facilities, and we are now in a position to know exactly what is needed at which facility. We've also set ourselves a baseline in terms of level of service that every health center and health post must offer. And we're investing to ensure that every center, health post or health center across the country, at least offers that baseline, level of care, which includes, of course, comfortable waiting area, providing facilities such as restroom, ensuring water and electricity, X-ray facility in a regional setting, hospitals. New hospitals are being constructed, and all existing hospitals are being rehabilitated or reconstructed in the coming years. A new specialized pediatric and maternal hospital is currently under construction. 6 new regional hospitals are under construction in Region 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Presently, we have a US $97 million project where designs are being completed to build and construct new regional hospitals for 4 hinterland areas in Region 1, 7, 8, and 9. The project in the rehabilitation, expansion, upgrade of Linden Hospital is also well underway. The Bartico Hospital reconstruction will begin at the end of the year, and this project will be completed by the end of 2025. All other existing hinterland hospitals outside of Mabaruma, Port Kaituma, Madhya, Paramakatoi, Anai, Kwakwani are scheduled for major upgrades between 2024 and 2026. Oxygen plants are being set up in all hinterland hospitals to allow wall oxygen therapy for patients and remove dependency on oxygen cylinders. Plans are on the way to redevelop the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation with a new standalone hospital, which is likely to be the biggest ever health project in CARICOM. Plans are on the way to develop the National Psychiatric Hospital, reconstruct West Demerara Regional Hospital, and upgrade Saudi, Port Morant, Maikoni, and Mabikuri hospitals. Plans are on the way to upgrade the National Ophthalmology Center and the National Chadijagan Dental Center. These are all facilities that are in the health master plan for major upgrade, rehabilitation, or reconstruction. We're also working on the creation of specialized centers. We have recently completed a specialized diabetic center in Luziknan. We want to expand this to other parts of the country. We are working with Mount Sinai to create a specialized cardiac and cancer treatment centers for Guyana. Nursing schools. We have completed the construction of 2 new nursing schools with modern classrooms and dormitories. Beginning this year, the New York Nursing School in Region 6 and 2 will take in students. I think as I speak to you now, in our program to allow anyone with entry requirement who want to do nursing to have that opportunity, we have more than 1,200 Guyanese registered in our nursing program nationally. We also have to build a health center on a strong technological footing. Therefore, we're investing in telemedicine. Already 19 health posts and health centers are linked to the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation under our telemedicine program. We're investing in new pathology equipment, and we're doing this in collaboration with Mount Sinai. Radiology and imaging technology. Already, GPHC has new X-rays and CT scanner. 14 new digital X-rays are being installed in hospitals in all 10 regions. These digital X-rays will abandon old technology for processing films. Doctor can read images anywhere in the world. And we are linking our healthcare system with health providers around the world. So we have a wider pool of specialists to help us as we develop this modern healthcare infrastructure. We're also working on using robotics, non-invasive methods of surgery as part of our modernization of the healthcare system. For a matter of fact, we have had more than 20% of surgery at the Georgetown Public Hospital are done using these new technology. We're investing in new ophthalmology equipment. At the end of 2023, 4 more retinopathy and cataract diagnostic centers will be operational. We're investing in new neurosurgery equipment to increase the number of brain surgeries at GPHC and to introduce neurosurgery in New Amsterdam and Linden. New neonatal intensive care units for all regional hospitals by the end of 2024. New laboratory equipment to make kidney and other transplant, such as liver, routine at Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation. New equipment to allow open heart surgery at Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation in real time will be put in place before 2025. A new pediatric cardiology program has started at Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation. New equipment to permit knee and hip replacement are also being sourced. These are some of the transformative, qualitative results of the investment we have made so far in our health sector. But we can't do this if we don't at the same time expand and improve our human resource assets in healthcare. That is why we now have an expansion on medical postgraduate training. At the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation presently, we have 16 postgraduate programs. This year we'll add a new postgraduate program to specialize more doctors for neurology. In addition, we'll increase the number of places to train emergency workers, doctors, gynecologists, pediatricians, surgeons. We're developing a hybrid nursing program to increase training of nurses from about 150 to 200 per year. A new training program will now enable us to train between 1,000 to 1,500 nurses per year. This program has already started. And not only the training of nurses, but we're also working on specialized areas for nursing. So we have postgraduate training in nurses for specialty areas. These are the things that we're doing. We also have a program for physician and nurse leadership program with McMaster and York Universities. We're developing a management leadership program with international health education providers. There's also transformation in emergency care, in new ambulance service, training of emergency medical technicians, training more emergency specialist doctors, training more emergency and trauma nurses, and of course, more medivacs. All of this is geared towards achieving the promise of the manifesto, that is a results-driven, modern, world-class healthcare system that brings with it equity. That is why we're redeveloping hospital networks in the hinterland, making surgery routine in the hinterland hospitals, improving technology and staffing at hinterland hospitals, offering more medivacs, telemedicine, improving connectivity, building medical warehouses, and introducing training hubs in the hinterland. I now wish to turn our attention to the education sector. And I will just give you a very, very brief highlight in relation to the education sector. We have completed a number of nursery, primary, and secondary schools, as you know, since 2020. The aim is to move towards universal secondary education, now that we have achieved universal primary education. Since we assumed office in 2020, the government has maintained 526 schools, or 58% of all the schools annually. So we started a program we have done an audit here to let me say this. At the end of last year, the government of Guyana launched an audit in health and education on all our facilities so that the result of that audit could inform the multi-year planning, budgetary planning, and we have started to implement that program. To date, 4,737 computing devices were procured and distributed to teachers and students, and 10 smart classrooms were established at secondary schools to facilitate the integration of ICT into the teaching learning process. 10 more smart classrooms will be established at the primary level shortly. To promote e-learning for hinterland students, a total of 102 hinterland students were accommodated at the CPC Turkine campus for both face-to-face interaction and online training. As part of our efforts to enhance and expand the coverage of the Guyana Learning Channel, 91 solar systems have been installed and 1,353 lessons developed and broadcast. This is important in ensuring equity in education. A total of 4,213 teachers were trained to use the new curriculum at the primary and nursery level. By the end of this year, a total of 4,913 teachers would have completed this training to deliver the new curriculum. A 5-year strategic operational plan has been developed and costed that will inform the attention given to our students with special needs education. To date, we have expended $3 billion on textbooks. By the end of this year, all primary, secondary school students will have access to a minimum of 4 textbooks per student due to this investment in the education sector. A total of 87,634 students are benefiting from school feeding, 42,735 from juice and biscuits, 29,691 from hot meal, and 15,208 from breakfast. In the Gold Scholarship Program, we have close to 17,000 students who were granted scholarships so far. Only today, we have launched a program where 1,500 teachers will be doing a specialized course with the University of West Indies to enhance their skills in teaching, reading, and comprehension. $8.5 billion in 2023 alone was spent on the Because We Care grant. These are just a glimpse of some of the highlights, the qualitative impact of the investment we have made in the education sector. Now, in terms of food security and agriculture, I can keep you here for the rest of the week to talk to you about food security and agriculture, because this is an area in which we are providing strong regional and global leadership. Today, Guyana has emerged as a leader in CARICOM, advancing the agri-food system agenda. We are now a leading voice in prioritizing food and energy security and climate mitigation and adaptation internationally. We have positioned the agriculture sector as an expanded, diversified, modern, resilient, and competitive sector. With a 150% increase in the budgetary allocation, the ministry moving from 13.3 billion in 2019 to 33.2 billion in 2023. We are bridging the production gap, ramping up production, crops such as rice, sugar, expanding the corn and soya production, high-value crops, the Shade House Initiative, wheat trials, spices, expansion of the livestock industry, swine, beef, poultry, black-belly sheep, fisheries, establishment of shrimp farm, and cage culture farming. These are all new areas that are emerging in a modern agriculture infrastructure landscape to support sustainability and resilience in agricultural food production. We're also building our human resource and institutional capacity. We're focusing on hinterland development to boost food security in hinterland communities, making them more self-sufficient. We have established demonstration sites, supply planting materials, provide improved breeds of livestock, establish processing facilities, increase access to technical and advisory services, assist with product development and marketing. Importantly, we are working on bridging the financing gap for low-cost loan programs that will help rice, poultry, and other farmers. Focus program to support capital formulation for farmers, incentives, tax benefits to facilitate land and acquisition of land and equipment to modernize farm and open up opportunity for higher production and higher yield. We're opening up new lands with approximately 260 kilometers of farm-to-market access road, fair weather road and all-weather road. We have been able to open up more than 50,000 acres of new land for production. We are resolutely working towards building resilience in our agriculture. Therefore, we have invested tremendously in the maintenance of drainage and irrigation system and farm-to-market roads, from $8.4 billion in 2019 to $19.7 billion in 2023. This is the increase in investment in drainage and irrigation, a 135% increase. We are working in revitalizing the sugar industry with a production targeted at 110,000 metric tons by 2025. We're working now on expanding our rice production. We had record production of rice grains from 789 metric tons in 2021 to 625,092 metric tons so far, 12% increase. Rice yield has increased from 5.9 metric tons per hectare in 2019 to 6.2 metric tons per hectare in 2023, a 5% growth. Rice production grew by 79%. We are projecting rice production to grow by 79% to 1 million metric ton in 2025. Rice remains Guyana's leading agri-export, accounting for approximately 60% of agriculture export. Rice exports from 2020 to 2023 are estimated at 1.7 million metric tons, valued at US $743 million. Agricultural diversification is also a key area for investment. Therefore, we are working on expanding our menu of products and produce from the traditional sector to the non-traditional sector, high value, whether it's the brackish water, shrimp, corn and soya, broccoli, cauliflower. So we are moving our production chain to more high value production with targeted markets. To ensure that this is successful, we are also supporting the expansion of storage capacity in our country. Storage for grains, cold storage, packaging, distribution centers, all of this, we are working with the private sector so that we can create a state-of-the-art regional food hub here in Guyana. We are also working on innovative ways of ensuring that young people and women are included in the agricultural diversification and agricultural plan, creating agricultural entrepreneurs or food production entrepreneurs. The Shared House program is one such program where we have been able to provide opportunity for more than 100 young people. Diversification would also focus on cultivation of coconut, citrus, spices, and new crop such as cocoa, coffee, hemp, millet, wheat, and barley. These are some of the new crops that we have at experimental stage, and we are confident that these are crops that we can now bring into our production stream in the agricultural sector. We're supporting our livestock farmers through improved genetics, investment in abattoirs, the black belly sheep program, advancement of the poultry industry, dairy milk facility to support private sector investment. Livestock meat production is expected to increase by 43%, from 47,188 metric ton in 2020 to 67,647 metric tons in 2023, while it's projected to grow by 50% in 2025. Additionally, over 13,000 acres of pastures has been developed for cattle farmers. All of this is to advance and grow the livestock industry. In terms of fisheries, since 2020, we have been harnessing the potential to drive economic growth and create jobs in the aquaculture industry with the brackish water shrimp project. Brackish water shrimp production grew by 500%, expanding over 1,000 acres and benefiting many farmers. Promotion of aquaculture in the areas of prawns, cage culture for tilapia and tambaqui is also a project that is expanding, especially in the hinterland. I want to turn our attention briefly to the economy and livelihood. I give you an understanding as to the global context earlier and what is the environment in which Guyana is operating. If you look, for example, at economic growth estimate, the crisis that I spoke of earlier have not only inflicted a human cost, but have exposed the vulnerability of global food and energy supply, with global inflation peaking at 8.9% last year and is projected to remain elevated at 6%, 6.1% this year. Closer to home, in the Caribbean, tourism-dependent countries, inflation levels rose to an estimated 7.9% in 2022, up from 5.4% in 2021, and is projected at 4.3% this year. The commodity exports of the Caribbean experienced inflation level rising to an estimated 13% in 2022, up from 11% in 2021, and is projected to remain elevated at 7.6% this year. Guyana economy has almost tripled since the end of 2020, with our nominal GDP moving from 1.1 trillion in 2020 to 3.1 trillion at the end of 2022. Of course, this is largely owing to the startup of oil production at the Liza Unity FPSO. Guyana is now the fastest growing economy in the world. For the period 2023 to 2026, Guyana is projected to grow at an average 25% annually. Guyana non-oil growth is now projected at 7.9% this year, building on the 11.5% growth recorded last year. Despite challenges, Guyana managed to grow its economy and put measures in place to reduce the burden of elevated prices on citizens, while at the same time prudently managing financial resources. At the end of 2022, Guyana debt to GDP ratio stood at 24.6%, down from 38.9% a year prior, demonstrating government's commitment to prudent fiscal management of the country's resources. Now, if you look at economic growth estimates, the world is estimated to grow at 2.8% in 2023. Advanced economies are expected to grow at 1.3%. Latin America and the Caribbean, 1.6%. The Caribbean tourism-dependent countries at 3.2%. Caribbean commodity exporters, 18.7%, and Guyana is expected to grow at 25.1%. In terms of inflation estimate, the world estimate is at 6.1%. Latin America and the Caribbean at 11.8%. And Guyana is estimated at 3.8%. As I said, I don't need to remind you of all the measures we put in place to cushion the effect of cost of living. In less than 3 years, we have faithfully worked to fulfill our manifesto promises. In our first budget, more than 200 plus taxes and fees imposed by the APNU FC government was fully removed. The electricity and water subsidies were restored, benefiting over 28,000 pensioners. We increased old age pension by 61%. We restored and increased the Because We Care cash grant. We restored the discipline services 1-month tax-free bonus that was previously removed by the APNU FC government. In keeping with our promises to provide jobs, we are expanding and outstripping the promise that we made of 50,000 jobs. Today, the narrative out there is we can't find workers. If I may turn our attention briefly to the housing sector. Total investment in infrastructure in new and existing housing areas increased from 17.2 billion in 2021 to an estimated 53.3 billion in 2023, an increase of almost 340%. We have upgraded almost 69.4 kilometers of roads, with an additional 341 kilometers planned for 2023. From 2021 to 2022, we have constructed 425 kilometers of new roads, with an additional 660 kilometers planned for 2023. And this is only in the housing sector I'm speaking about. From 2021 to 2022, 19.55 kilometers of highway was constructed, with an additional 17.6 kilometers planned for 2023. Specifically, 1.6 kilometer of the 4-lane connector of Great Diamond is in progress, while procurement is underway for 16 kilometers of 4-lane highway from Great Diamond to Craig and then to Land of Canaan. We have allocated almost 23,698 house lots, that is outside of those that were allocated 2 days ago, since we came into office. For the period that we're in office, the last 3 years, the housing sector alone has supported more than 50,000 jobs. The housing investment in the housing sector alone has supported over 50,000 jobs. Given the average price for house lots and the actual cost of investment in infrastructure by the government, an average low-income allottee receives a 97% subsidy from the government. A low middle income allottee is 74% subsidy from the government. This is the investment the government is making on behalf of the people. Every time someone is allocated a house lot, that is a share of investment the government is putting in on your behalf to give you an asset that carries a higher net value, that increases your own net value, and of course, work as a catalyst for wealth creation. I now want to turn our attention briefly to the water sector. As you know, there are a number of goals we set ourselves in the water sector. That is sustainable water management, water infrastructure, and access to a safe, reliable, and affordable supply of water, and adequate sanitation services to improve living standards. That was goal 1. Goal 2, sustainable water supply is also an essential driver of the government's low-carbon growth strategy for sustainable development. Goal 3, Guyana Water and Sanitation Sector Strategic Plan 2021-2025 aims to increase access to potable water supply to 100%, increase treated water coverage from 52 to 90%, reduce water losses, non-revenue water, and the modernization of the wastewater and sanitation infrastructure. Goal 4, government's ambition is to achieve the United Nations SDG Goal 6 before 2030. Goal 6 is to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. How are we performing? Government, in pursuit of achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, specifically SDG 6, to ensure availability and sustainable management of water sanitation for all, has invested since 2020 more than $27 billion in this sector. Under the Public Sector Investment Program for the potable water supply sector from 2020 to date, government has provided the following resources. Coastal Water Supply Program, $19 billion. Hinterland Water Supply Program, $2.9 billion. Urban Water and Sewage Program, more than $3.7 billion. We've invested heavily in implementation of a US $200 million coastal water treatment program. This investment will provide improved water quality and service and level of service to 260,000 persons, or 65,000 households. This will be achieved through the following intervention. Construction of 13 new water treatment plants with production capacity of between 2 to 12 megaliters per day in region 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Upgrade of 12 existing treatment plants in region 3, 4, 5, and 6. Expansion and upgrade of transmission and distribution system within 25 water systems connected to the treatment plants, and procurement and installation of 10 small water treatment plants using inline systems. More than 30,000 residents gain access to potable water supply for the first time. These are new residents, new persons who have benefited from the investment in the water sector. To achieve the reduction in the gap in access between coastal and hinterland community, we have procured 3 new drill rigs between 2020 and 2022. Communities in all 10 administrative regions of Guyana receive improved and increased access to safe water supply through the installation of new mains, upgrade of aged and existing infrastructure, and drilling of more than 30 new wells, which now brings the total number of public wells to more than 300 nationwide. Government is committed to drill more than 30 new hinterland wells, along with the installation of an appropriate number of PV systems. Currently, Government of Guyana is seeking funding for the construction of a major wastewater treatment facility in the city of Georgetown. The improvement in the social and economic well-being of the population. The government has seen it prudent to reduce the financial impact on our citizens. As a result, the imposition of value-added tax on potable water has been removed in 2020. You'll recall that the previous government, the last government, imposed VAT on water. We removed that. Over 28,000 pensioners are receiving free water supply for up to 10 cubic meters of water per month. And this relief is being fully subsidized by the government to the tune of $523 million Guyana dollars. In 2021, the government of Guyana's most comprehensive initiative in the potable water sector is to reduce the hardship that citizens and business face alike, was to reduce water tariff across all categories of customer. In COVID, in the global financial distress, this government has reduced water tariff across all categories of customers. 178,000 customers would have benefited from that 5% reduction. This has provided an estimated $260 million annually in disposable income back to the citizens. Under our major public sector investment program, 2020 to 2022, we have improved access and quality of service of potable water supply. The government has expended in excess of $10 billion to support the expansion of water distribution system, drilling of new wells. We have also provided over 10,000 new service connections during this period. We have completed drilling of 2 new wells utilizing in-house capacity. So not only are we expanding, but we are building our in-house capacity and capability. And we have been able to complete 2 new wells using our in-house capability and capacity. In urban water, over 50,000 residents would have benefited from improved service delivery and quality as a direct result of the execution of an investment of $410 million, one of which you'll have seen in Church Street. This saw over 35% of city residents benefiting from improved water quality and service levels. In the hinterland, because equity is important for this government, in the hinterland and riverine communities, some 20 new wells and water systems have been completed. New wells and distribution networks were completed in many communities in Region 8, Region 1, Region 9, Region 7. The proportion of the hinterland population with access to potable water has significantly increased to 75% as I speak to you. One of the major global issues in terms of water is groundwater resources. That is why we are now also working on the full implementation of our IWRM, that is the Integrated Water Resource Management System, which would seek to utilize more efficiently our surface water. There are some low-hanging fruits for us that we have completed studies in ensuring we bring this fresh water into the production capacity. In Region 4, for example, we have the East Demerara Water Conservancy, the Hope Canal. A feasibility study has been completed indicating the viability of the Hope Canal as a potable water source from Coven John to Cane Grove on the east coast of Demerara. In Region 7, the Bartica 5 Miles Creek. A study was completed to use the 5 Miles Creek as a potential source of water to serve the 5 Miles and 4 Miles community in Bartica. In Region 10, the West Watuka Conservancy. The West Watuka Conservancy has excellent water quality, and a project is currently being implemented to use the water as an alternative source to the Demerara River to supply potable water to the residents of Linden. This will reduce the dependency on chemical use by 80% in the region's water supply system. If I may briefly touch on some issues on oil and gas. Guyana total recoverable reserves are over 11 billion barrels. Crude oil reserves have been ranked 17 in the world and 3rd in Latin America as I speak. Increased production of our medium sweet grade crude with low sulfur content has government revenue projected to be US 10 billion annually by the end of the decade. Our natural resource fund, as you know, is growing, and we are looking to the modernization of our country, health, education, agriculture, and the fueling of the new economy and expansion of the economy from revenues from the oil and gas sector. Currently, Guyana crude oil production, which includes the Liza Unity and Liza Destiny, averages about 400 barrels per day. Our oil projection, if goals are met, production from Stabroek would average 1.2 million barrels per day by the end of 2027. Now, in our legislative agenda, we have 77 pieces of legislation presented to the National Assembly from September 2020 to present, and 70 have been fully enacted of the 77 that were presented. Now, I just want to highlight to you some areas of policy that is actively under consideration by the Cabinet. We are now looking at our national policy on solid waste, on a new solid waste management bill, a national zoning plan, new regional and urban planning framework, master plan to achieve universal secondary education. On this note, commencing from September, Spanish will now become compulsory in our school system. Our national infrastructure master plan, the reformulation of an integrated water resource management system, framework for a national consultation on updating the poverty reduction strategy as an input to the national prosperity plan, conceptual discussion on a national gas strategy, the regional food hub, the regional energy hub, repositioning traditional sector to more value added, the conceptual work on the national manpower master plan, community safety response infrastructure. And this community safety response infrastructure includes the CDC, fire, creating back a volunteer group to support a fire brigade back into communities, the community policing group, and finalization of the National Border Patrol unit role so that we can move towards implementation. In addition to these issues, our intention is to have all the members of the Public Service Commission sworn in before the end of this week. This will pave the way for the full complement of members for the Judicial Service Commission and for the commencement of work from the Judicial Service Commission, and also the full complement of members for the Police Service Commission. In terms of constitution reform, we are working towards having the consultation mechanism, the consultation work in terms of constitutional reform commence during the last quarter of this year. So work on the consultation to commence during the last quarter of this year. In the intervening period, we'll be setting the system in place and having the process launch to have different stakeholder nominated, or nominees from different stakeholders, so that we can commence preparatory work for the consultations. Thank you very much.
It was on. We want each one of you to get an opportunity to ask at least one question, and we will begin with newsroom. Ms. Raghaber.
Thank you. Thank you, Vishani from the newsroom here. Mr. President, my first question to you is in relation to former Minister Nigel Darmlal. With his resignation, can you say who, perhaps, if anyone, has been identified to replace him, perhaps as a minister, but definitely as a member of parliament?
In relation to that question, the process, right now I'm looking at different aspects of government, as you have seen in my presentation. I'm looking at full functioning of government, and before the end of this week, I'll be making some announcements, which includes the reassignment and assignment of the responsibility in that portfolio.
Stabrook News. We'll go through the protocol. You name yourself and the organization.
Marcel Thomas from the Stabrook News. On the same former Minister Nigel Darmlal case, I make reference to your statement from Trinidad when you announced the resignation. Observers have pointed out that then you made no mention of the complainant in the case. Do you see this as a major omission, or was this deliberate in terms of having no sympathy for that person? And the follow-up to that would be, in that same Trinidad statement, you said Mr. Darmlal said that he didn't want to bring government into disrepute, hence his reason for the resignation, but he would continue to support the party. Does government plan on hiring him in any capacity? Or does your government, sorry? Thank you.
First of all, I want to make it very clear that children and women and their welfare is of utmost importance to me and this government. There is absolutely no time in which this government will put the welfare of women and children on second burner or third burner. The welfare of women and children is of utmost importance to us. At the time, I was dealing specifically with state agency that made a pronouncement and my consequential action in relation to that pronouncement. Haven't heard from the minister. That is all it is. I have complete respect and regard for children and women. They are at the top of my priority in this government priority. What is that?
The follow-up on if.
Well, the leadership
will
of
be
this
high.
party is decided by the members of this party at a Congress. Every leader of the party is elected at, I'm coming to, but I want to make this point very clearly. You know, we have to follow rules, we have to follow system. And I'm working as President of Guyana to build systems that serve the population. System in which the population can find honor in being part of, and system through which we can trust. Just before, and I don't want to comment on this, just before I came to this press conference, some letter that is circulating was brought to my attention. I have not even read it. I have not even read it. But I am saying to you that in the course of natural justice, the justice system must work. In the course of natural justice, the system that supports natural justice must be allowed to work. And that is what the president did. Whether the minister who is a citizen would have any work in government is not something I've considered that he has requested at this moment.
Over there.
Mr. President, good morning. Thank you for dedicating another
name and
hour to spend with the media. Yes, Mr. Nascimento, Ragabir, Loop Caribbean. Sir, the Madhya Commission of Inquiry, I know you'd identify Major General retired Joe Singh. Have you identified the other people who would be sitting on that commission? And in terms of the terms of reference, I know a couple of weeks ago it was still to be drawn up. Could you say at this time if it has been, or elaborate on what those terms would be? On the consultative process for the constitutional reform, is there a time frame that your government will be working with? And on the backdrop of the COI for the Elections Commission and the fact that we had local government elections just recently, are you satisfied with the Guyana Elections Commission performance? And during and after the local government elections, what needs to change, if anything?
Hold a minute.
That's all.
You asked 4 questions.
Yeah, or 5.
You will ask one and a follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
I will not have one reporter ask a series of questions.
Okay. I would hope that the president would.
If that happens, I'm speaking. If that happens, then other reporters will get no opportunity. You ask one question and a follow-up. You wait your turn to ask a second and a third.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm not yet president.
You know, this is one of the problems that we have we have to respect systems. And there is a moderator that is communicating to you. I think that you ought to, as we show respect to you, you ought to demonstrate some level of respect to the moderator. That is a natural course of professional journalism. And I'm open at all times to the media and journalists. You know this, Nazima. So let me say on the COI, I'm in consultation with a number of potential candidates. I have not confirmed their acceptance at this time, so I cannot dare speak on their behalf. But I'm hoping that before the end of this week that we can have the full complement constituted for the COI. In terms of the constitutional reform, the work that we are doing is now going to bring the consultative process into operation. There's a number of things that has to be done before that. That is getting nominees from different stakeholders and so on. Now, I cannot be presumptuous to say that this will be the timeline until that group, the consultative group, is in place to advise me based on the work, what timeline. But there are some guidelines based on previous constitutional reform exercise as to how this timeline can evolve. In terms of the terms of reference for the COI, we have draft terms of reference, almost I would say final terms of reference, but I would not want to say final terms of reference because, of course, we have to have the full complement of commissioners there, and they have to have an opportunity and input also into the finalization of the terms of reference. I believe in consultative work and to have views of everyone who's involved in a process as part of the process from conceptualization to completion. In terms of GCOM, listen, at the end of the day, once we have free, fair, and credible elections, we all should be satisfied, and that is what we look for. Elections that are free, fair, and credible. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. President. Kiana Wilbert, Kaichur News. Sir, Guyana has been considered to, yes, we are growing at a very rapid pace, but the reality is that we do have a human resource crisis. Many of our industries, the main challenge is human resources. On this note, can you say, with the number of projects your government is pursuing in the oil and gas industry, how are you tackling, what is the plan to tackle the human resource crisis for the oil and gas industry? And specifically, can you provide some details, because you went extensively on the health and education and agriculture. How have you improved human resource management or increased that since your time in office from 2020 to now, specifically for the oil and gas industry? And I have a follow-up.
I can go at length on all that we have done to improve our human resource skill set nationally and also for the oil and gas sector. As you know, we've invested tremendously in technical education, much of which is to support the oil and gas industry. Secondly, we have supported private training opportunities directly for oil and gas, whether it's in the maritime industry, welding and fabrication, auxiliary service, transport and logistics. All of this we have supported. We're also working now on the building out of the National Skill Training Center, more than $100 million investment that will include the Hospitality Institute that will have to train about 6,000 people. We are working now on making, creating a system in which all our teachers would have the opportunity to become trained teachers right from where they are, and then moving to provide trained graduate. This not only give them an opportunity to get training, but to get higher levels of salary, because a trained teacher and a trained graduate and so on get higher levels of salary. and we are working on that salary scale system also to reflect this. The Gold Scholarship Program is geared at producing people to function not only in the oil and gas sector, but in all other sectors. Notwithstanding that, we have a major problem in terms, as you rightfully pointed out, in terms of skills to meet the requirement for the oil and gas sector and to meet the requirement for the expanded construction sector and all that we're doing in the economy. One of the main issues facing the region now is the outward movement of our nurses and health workers. Only yesterday, I met with a number of nurses at Georgetown Hospital, and they were I'm so happy for the work they are doing, that some of them are doubling up on shifts because of the shortage. When I spoke to the administration at Georgetown Public Hospital, they now have hundreds of nurses short of their full complement. So that is why we are moving massively on this training program for nurses and bringing more nurses in the system, because there's shortage in Canada, UK, Europe, the US. So the whole world now is on an active drive of recruiting nurses all over. So we have to find the immediate measure, the medium term and long term. The medium and long term is to train and retrain and train more than the capacity that you need. But the immediate term, for example, for nurses, is to have nurses come into the system from external sources. We're in discussion now, for example, with Cuba. Up to this morning, I had a long discussion with the ambassador to see if we can get Cuban nurses to come into the system now in the immediate period to help to fill that gap because of the tremendous shortage that we have. The same thing for construction workers and labor. We have these challenges. So it is threefold. One, it is creating the training opportunity, and that is what we're investing in. Secondly is to create the employment opportunity, which is being created. And importantly, one of the things that people have to understand is countries that get a lot of resources from oil and gas, for example, or natural resources, they have to invest and diversify the economy, and there is where most of the opportunity comes. From the revenue, using that revenue to diversify the economy, giving farmers more opportunity, giving more persons opportunity to become entrepreneurs, opening up new lands, greater access to housing, eventually faster access to capital formation and reduce interest rates. We're already seeing that. Interest rates are coming down. More people having access to resources, creating new business opportunities, investing in value-added agro-processing, making tourism a major part of the economic diversification and the growth of the country, working on expanded services that are export-oriented. So we want to build the healthcare industry, the education sector, to an extent at which we can now offer global service through these sectors, investing in technology, robotics, creating a modern platform in which the country operates so that we can have the new type of tech jobs coming to Guyana, whether it's data field, data centers. And these are the things that we're working on, the role of robotics, the stem cell technology, research and development. We are pushing this economy in a new direction, modern, fast-paced, technologically driven. And that requires a different type of human resource base, highly skilled human resource asset. And that is what we're investing in also.
Thank you. Before Kaichor News asks a follow-up, is there a technician in here who can turn down that air conditioner? I'm seeing a lot of persons hugging and feeling very cold, including me. So if there is a technician who can turn it down a little bit, it would be very good. Kaichor News, proceed.
Thank you. Based on your response, sir, what I was trying to get is clarity on whether if, when you came into office, we met 10 persons with the skill sets we need to run the oil industry, to help us in the management, contract administration. We've now moved from 10 to 50, and we're working to increase that by.
No, you're asking a different question now. That is not the question you asked. You asked a macro question, which I answered. You're asking a specific question now in relation to our capacity to manage the oil and gas sector from a legislative, regulatory, enforcement perspective. In that regard, what we have seen in the last 3 years is a development of tremendous asset in terms of technical, not in terms of academics. So you have a number of Guyanese graduating now in master's degree in oil and gas management, in legal areas for oil and gas management, in regulation. So I would say that you have a few 100% increase in the skill that is available to us in the last 3 years. Now that available skill does not come with the experience in working in the sector. So yes, we are building up the capacity to enter the sector. And we're seeing more of these young people being part of the management, whether it's in the audit and the unit that is being set up at GRA or at the Ministry of Natural Resources. We are now working on bringing together a whole team to look at regulations. We have to look at the National Natural Gas Plan, the gas plan, and that itself would require maybe hundreds of technically competent people. So in the short term, we have to import the skills that has the experience to ensure that now these new talent that is coming through, people who are trained and coming back, that experience is infused in them so they'll have the technical skill that comes from academics and the experience to manage the system. It's an evolution. It is in train. It is in process. It won't happen overnight. This transition will take a number of years. It will take a number of years until we have the full capacity and capability. But what we have had, because of our bilateral collaboration, is tremendous support from places like Qatar, Ghana, India. They're willing to send a full slew of human resource capacity and capability to work with our local asset to bring them up to speed to the management of this sector.
Next.
Good morning, Mr. President. Svetlana Marshall from News Source. I have a follow-up to Marcel and Fishani's question, and then I have a substantive question. So my follow-up is, could you say if the government is prepared to heed to calls from civil society for there to be an independent investigation into the handling of the case involving the former minister from the time the allegation was reported right up to the advice given to the given by the DPP, sorry. And my substantive question is, could you say if the government is in talks with the Guyana Teachers Union on the comprehensive package for teachers that is being put together, and if so, how those negotiations are progressing? Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I think it's insultive to say that our system is not independent. From day one, the President of Guyana made it clear that the system would be allowed to work. In every country, there is a system, starting with the Child Care Protection Agency, what's the name of the agency? Human Services, Blossom, the police, the DPP. These are all independent agencies. These are all independent agencies that are working not only in Nigel Damlar case, but working in many other cases in the country. These are the same agencies that existed when allegations were made against former ministers of our government. I never heard that question from you then. I never heard it from you. I'll ask you to refer to them to give those examples. But we have to allow the systems in the country to work. The president did not intervene in the investigation. The president did not do the investigation. These are independent agencies set up in accordance with the constitution and rule of law of the country. And as president and as a government, we have to have trust in our institutions. We have to have trust in our institution. The second issue is, now, I had promised, as you know, that I will have extensive consultation with teachers across the country. You see, I believe in widening I love to meet people. I love people. I feel at loss when people are not around me. That is why you will see me with the people all the time. That is my happiest moment. So, as I return from the Leadership EU CELAC Leadership Conference and my state visit in China, you will see me in every region with our beautiful teachers, talking to our teachers, hearing from them. Because what I want to do is to create an enabling environment in which every teacher will grow. Every teacher will have a better standard of living. So I'll be consulting not only the union, I'll be consulting with the teachers themselves. Thank you.
Next question.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Davina Samaru from the Guyana Times. I just have some clarity on something you mentioned, and I have a question. You mentioned the Spanish is going to be compulsory in the school systems. I just wanted to know if this is for both primary and secondary levels, as well as do we have enough teachers to be able to teach Spanish as a compulsory language, and if these teachers have to be outsourced or if we have everyone in-house. And my substantive question is your upcoming trip to China. You previously mentioned one of the agenda items being the financing for the Mabura to Latham Road. Can you say what are some other agenda items and when exactly will you be leaving to go to China?
I don't know when exactly I'm leaving as yet. And my security people will say that's a very challenging security question. But definitely you will know when I leave. One of the challenges in this region is flights. So in addition to our national transformative plan that we are discussing with all our bilateral partners, we also have climate, energy, and food security as key areas and key topics for discussion with China. As I said to you, all of you here, that we are looking to provide global leadership. And global leadership requires us communicating with all our partners what we want to achieve, where we see things, and to share ideas. We have also common bilateral and multilateral concerns that we'll be discussing, I'm sure. So I would say that our agenda has some specifics, but also it is broad enough to look at new areas of cooperation, including technology and security. Those are things that will be raised. In terms of Spanish, I hope that, now give you a personal example. One of my greatest regrets, now that I'm in have this responsibility for Guyana, is that I dropped Spanish in secondary school. And being in a continent in South America where we celebrate we're the only English-speaking country, we have to realize too that we're part of this continent that speaks Spanish. And I believe we're going to do the future young people of our country an injustice if we don't point them into this direction. Because if you want to be competitive internationally, you have to have this second language. If you want to land yourself international jobs, if we want to say that we're developing the highly skilled human resource base, then this becomes necessary. And I'm hoping that not only will the school implement this, but the private sector. The private sector would also move towards having their children trained their employees trained in Spanish. I'm also going to move to have the cabinet take compulsory classes, maybe at midnight. We will also work on see whether we can launch an online platform for any Guyanese who want to learn Spanish to go on that platform and learn Spanish. Now, if you go on Regent Street today, you will see that in many stores they actually have someone who speaks Spanish employed. So it will come upon us if we don't get ahead of the curve and get it done. So I have asked for a full assessment. I have been told that we have adequate capability, especially at the secondary level, to have this compulsory Spanish taught. We have also engaged a number of bilateral partners to loan us human resource asset in this period of transition, because I would want that at least from what is it? What do you call it? Grade 4? What is primary 4 now? Primary 3? Grade 5. Grade 5. At least from grade 5, grade 4, grade 5, you start the process. Technology also gives us an opportunity to build an online platform through the learning channel that we can deliver this training also. So I think that we have enough capacity, and we're going to build the capacity, I think, by September to have this introduced, at least from to start from grade 4 or 5.
Good morning, thank you. Leron Bromell, NCN, Mr. President. Two questions. One, just a follow-up to what we've been discussing in terms of human capacity. There is a question. Guyana has always had our skilled workers go to the region and work, particularly in Trinidad and Barbados, in terms of the construction industry. Last week at the launch of the International Building Expo, Prime Minister alluded to the fact that we may have to bring labor in because we're undergoing what he called a revolution. Have we had discussions in terms of CARICOM or with other countries to have that labor come in, skilled labor come in to assist with our infrastructure development? And if so, what system is there? And if I also take you on the climate front, neighboring Brazil has an issue with deforestation. And with us leading with the carbon credits and managing our forests, has there been a discussion at your level, president to president, or has Brazil asked for our intervention to help them manage their forests? Or are we considering as well selling our expertise in this regard?
So first, I want to start with the second question on Brazil. Part of President Lula manifesto is to work on replanting of the forests. So that's part of his manifesto. I've had the opportunity to have extensive discussions with President Lula on joint programs, and including climate and the forests. So we are ready not only to offer support to Brazil and to work together with Brazil, but we have offered this support to CARICOM, Belize. We are working now in a leadership group in Commonwealth, because there are other countries in the Commonwealth with huge forest cover, to share our expertise. With Suriname, we have offered technical support because we see ourselves as being part of the solution and being part of providing that leadership in a very, very strong way. So yes, we're taking this very seriously. In the EU, for example, in my meeting with the President of EU, this is a main area. And we are going to launch a very aggressive program at COP28 on the lessons learned and the model that Guyana is using. And that model is gaining more and more momentum and traction because it has brought results with it. In terms of the skilled workers, one of the problems is that the region itself has shortages. So many countries in the region has tremendous shortage in skilled workers. But it's not only the skilled workers, you know. It is skilled workers and it's the culture. And you know, as a country, we have to address issue with the brutal honesty, and because unless we can change the way we do things and understand that the circumstances require a new approach, then we'll not be able to increase the productivity. So we're accustomed working single shift. Countries that have gone through this pace of development that we are going through, you have to start doing 2 shifts, 3 shifts, using the night opportunities, they call it, because of climatic condition, rainfall. You have to convert good days, good day opportunity when you have the night to also good night opportunities. So that is something that is new to us. But if you go around the country more and more, you're seeing tower lights up and people are working in the night and extending the work hours. Then you have our culture. You know, 2 weeks ago we had the holiday on a Thursday. We had a holiday or a Friday and a Monday, right? So many sites were shut down because workers did not turn up from Wednesday to the next Tuesday. And this is something we have gone through many times. That can't work in this space that we're going at. And then you have a third problem, where because of the increase in the day wages, so some drivers today, 2-3 years ago, they were getting $6,000 per day. Some are getting $12,000, $10,000, $8,000 per day at the minimum. Drivers, operators is even worse. So you work in 3 days what you were working for an entire week 3 years ago. So some people are not seeing as this is an opportunity to capitalize on the opportunity. So they work 3 days, they're comfortable with that revenue from 3 days, and you rest for 4 days. So the productivity is affected and man-hour is affected. So that's another thing that we have to speak about. I mean, the private sector needs to speak up about it, not only when they meet me, but they also have to speak up about it, because this is a situation that we are faced with, a challenge that we are faced with. And what we have seen recently is a number of our skilled workers who migrated, especially to CARICOM region, are returning. So if you go to the housing programs that we have, you will see many of the people who are working there are those who return from Barbados or return from Trinidad and Tobago. Some return from St. Kitts. So it's an evolution. It's we'll see.
Next question.
Misha Seeley from DPI. As it relates to El Nino, would you be able to say, Mr. President, whether any assessments have been carried out to ascertain to what extent Guyana might be hit, especially in the agricultural sector, and what systems are being put in place not only to mitigate those losses, but to prepare persons for the effects of El Nino?
So one of the things that we have to do is what you call integrated water resource management. So water resource management becomes very important in situations like this. But it's a very thin line between keeping the aquifer at optimum level, keeping the storage facility at optimum level, and having a one-off event where the intensity of rainfall is so high that we have seen that being at optimum level create other problem for flooding. So there is an assessment that is being completed now as to what level of storage we need to keep and how we need to manage that storage moving forward in preparation. So yes, there is a lot of work that is ongoing now by the Ministry of Agriculture in preparation for this.
DPI, do you have a follow-up? Next question.
Hi, Shamar Musa from the Guyana Chronicle. Can you elaborate on the direct and indirect benefits of Guyana being and maintaining its position as the leading FDI destination in the Caribbean? And I have a follow-up.
Well, really, the direct and indirect benefit is the jobs and the spin-off. So, for example, we have 8 hotels under construction right now where work would have started. On completion of those hotels, you're talking about thousands of new jobs being created. That is thousands of families who now have more disposable income. When the call centers increase their capacity by 1,000 workers, that's 1,000 persons now who have additional income coming in. Additional income means more family wealth, more individual wealth, more community wealth, more national wealth, more spending in the economy. You have more spending in the economy, you have more demand for service. More demand for service increases supply. Supply of services increases revenue. Increased revenue triggers spending. So it's a cycle. So FDI is an important indicator also in the confidence that investors have in the country. So it is not only we are the leading destination for FDI, it tells a lot about the confidence in which the sophisticated and international investor, the confidence that they have in the country, the leadership, the direction in which the country is going. So that is also a major component. The third thing is social, economic, political stability and security. Investors look at these things. So the fact that investors are streaming in and there is greater level of interest in Guyana. So I think your phone is too close to it. Yeah. Speak to, yeah, I have technician skills too, you know. So speak to the fact that that level of awareness and confidence of Guyana is there. And I will tell you something, every single time I travel now, and I run very tight schedule. I don't use an additional hour in any country. But we have to dedicate time on every travel, whether it's in the night, whether it's in the evening, to meet investors. There's always multiple requests from different private sector organizations, governments. Right now, we are trying to schedule and reschedule a state visit to the DR private sector, and the president is awaiting. You know, hundreds of private sector leaders came to Guyana. They have established relationship, and they want us to go. Hundreds of speaking engagement internationally at the World Economic Forum. Every single major investment forum, I have been invited to give the keynote address or to lead delegation. I have not been able to attend 10% of it. That is because of the interest, and you're seeing this every time you travel, the requests that is there. On our agenda here locally, the requests for meetings and so on. So the FDI is also an indication of as to the confidence in the economy.
Do you follow up?
And also public.
Keep your phone well away from you.
And also public and private.
You see, you have a double jeopardy. You have your laptop and your phone. And I don't know if you have metal in your fingers, but go on. Yeah.
Yeah, with increased FDI and also public and private investments, would you be able to put a figure on, let's say, the number of jobs that have been created through these type of?
We can easily put a figure to it, and that is being calculated. But I can give you estimates, like I give you for the building sector, the construction sector for housing alone, right? If you look at the hotels that are coming on stream, by the time you get to 2025, you will need at least 6,000 new entrants, not existing, new entrants in the hospitality sector. You need, maybe I would say, immediately, maybe 2,000 health workers in different fields. And that is what the training is geared towards. Then you have a number of companies who tell you every day they're losing. Kiana, you hear this because you cover the sector well. A number of companies, local companies, are saying they're losing their workers to the oil and gas companies that are coming in. And some of these workers are the workers that are highly trained and highly skilled. When you look at companies that are in manufacturing, machining, industrial development. So if you look at the number of companies coming in specialized warehousing, tooling, fabrication, you know, all of these things generate employment. And that is why you're seeing a deficit in the system. The manpower pool has not been able to respond to the high levels of demand.
Thank you, Mr. President. Kimal King, Oil Now. I would like to ask a question.
And I will say it again, Azima, and we have to be honest. It's unfortunate for the media to say they don't see me. Every single opportunity I have an engagement and the media comes to me, I speak to the media. I spend a lot of time with the media. No, but it's, you
Please
say you
do
don't
not
see me.
interrupt the
It's the
president when he speaks.
availability
We
of the
have
president.
silence.
Is availability of the president to the media, and it would be very unfortunate if any media person here can say that the president is not available to you at any time you call. And I ask all of you here, Marcel, am I not available when I go out? You come to me with a question? Anytime. Look, young man from Starbucks News there. You come to me all the time. Any one of you, newsroom, anytime you guys are out there and you come to me. So, you know, you have to understand that societies and environment evolve. You know, you ever see in the developed world how questions are shooted at the press, from the press. Leaders pass by and a question shoots through. Whichever question he hears, he stops and addresses that question and moves on. Now, I want to say that we are at a stage in the development of our country where every second is important for me. And I love to spend time with the media. I will love every week to spend time with you. But trust me, trust what I'm telling you. Just as I'm saying a new work culture has to be developed by our workers out there, I had to adjust to a new work culture. A work culture that requires constant working, reading documents, understanding what is happening. Our economy is very complex now. We are operating with more sophisticated players from the business community. You have to be on top of your game. It doesn't happen by guesswork. It happens by spending time behind the work. So time is very important, and management of that time is very important. We all have to come to that realization.
So if you tantalize the president, you're going to be here for longer.
Thank you, Mr. President. When you ran for office, one of the major commitments that was made with respect to management of the oil sector was for the legislation and establishment of a petroleum commission. You have explained this morning that the government has made tremendous progress in executing its legislative agenda. So what would you say, Mr. President, are the humbugs that have, or whatever the considerations are, that have made the government maybe slow to deliver on this specific commitment of a petroleum commission? And I would have a follow-up.
Well, I wouldn't say there are humbugs. There is complexity of what is needed. And the petroleum bill, you know, is a very outdated, the new bill has to be very comprehensive. It has to take a lot of new circumstances into consideration. It's very important that every stakeholder and every view is taken on board, so the bill will be one that is responsive of the whole national view that surrounds the sector itself. And I'm very sure and very confident that that process is ongoing at a rapid pace now, and we are committed to, and you will have that bill.
Follow-up would be, do you believe that it's important in the early years of the oil sector in Guyana for you, the government, as in the political leaders, to have a strong arm beyond a policy-making level in the management of the oil sector?
That's a very dicey situation. I don't believe that the government should have a strong arm in anything. Let me explain to you. The government has taken a deliberate step. And you mentioned when we campaign that we want high levels of transparency and accountability. That is why we have taken an arm's length approach in terms of many aspects, whether it's the sovereign wealth fund and different aspects of the industry itself. In many of the many of the analysis, we sought international consultants to come in to advise us, people who have went through this, people who have the experience. So I don't see the government as taking a strong arm. And even in our normal course of business, I see government as a facilitator of growth and development. Government, you know, and that comes to ideological positioning. Government should not be in the business of business. Government should be in the business of facilitating business, ensuring that your policies, your incentive, your systems are efficiently managed and help to create opportunities for businesses to grow and businesses to be established. So that I believe is the role.
Next question.
Amanda Marshall from MTV News Update. Mr. President, just a few weeks ago, you said that diplomatic missions have to be filled to accommodate bilateral relations with nations. Have those posts been filled?
All the posts are not filled as yet, and I'm working to have these posts filled very, very, very soon. There are some very key posts. It's not only about ambassadors or high commissioners. This is about building teams. I spoke about military attaché in some areas that are critical now because of the level of presence of Guyana and improve and expanded bilateral relationship on security and our importance in terms of the regional security architecture. So that is why you will see even the structure in some of these missions reflecting the new approach. In some areas, you will have to look at a commercial arm because of the level of, you just spoke about increased FDIs, because of the structure of the relationship. So foreign policy is also a function of the growth and development of the country and where we're going. And you have the institutional mechanism has to be there to support that.
Did you have a follow-up? Over there.
Josiah Williams, NCN News. The EITI recently.
No, NCN have been already.
Okay.
All right, thank you then.
1 second.
Did we cover everyone?
No. There are two organizations here who have not asked questions. Do you want to ask questions? Fine.
Then thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
I'd like to conclude this press conference, and I'd like to thank you all for the patience you've shown and for asking some very relevant questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. President.